Akim Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash, and double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful elect that's out there listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom. All right, Hakim. So today I want to go into Leviticus, the 13th chapter a little bit, and just something that stuck out to me earlier when I was going into the law and just kind of, reading through. I noticed the topic of leprosy came up in this chapter. So, I want to go into like what leprosy really is, because you'll hear about it throughout the Bible, but a lot of our people really don't know what leprosy is, and this is actually very important to understanding, the doctrine, and why, we tell you about, what the Lord looked like, what his people looked like, and what Esau looked like, because it is part of the story, it is part of the doctrine, and to get one detail off could change the whole story. Okay. The story that the Bible is for the Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians. And so the original Israelites were so-called black. Okay, and we're going to go into a nice clear-cut piece of proof right here. Okay, in the law. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. All right, this is Leviticus 13:1. It says, "And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying," and by the way, look at the title, the test for leprosy, right? Salakia. Let's go back up. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab, or bright spot, right there, bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, you see, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priest. Let's get this word bright spot. Okay, so y'all can see H934. Okay, there's the word. What does it mean? White patch of skin. Okay, or as we say, so-called white. Okay, because, all right, they're going to put it in as white, but if you look at a so-called white person's hand, like in this advertisement right here is a perfect example. It's not white, because this is white here. Okay, it's actually red. Okay, now this one has a tiny bit of a tan, and the lighting could be fucked up, but here, let's just get a nice example. Let's just say white people, so-called white people in the sun, right? Because, there's a perfect example, okay? So yeah, the skin is brighter than that of a so-called black person, and typically this is going to cause a red because you can see the blood on their skin, okay? And you don't even have to put in the sun. You could just put so-called white people. All right, you still see the red pigment, okay? The leprosy on their body is all the way through and through. Okay, so let's go back. White patch of skin, brightness, bright spot, right? Why is it telling? So right here, you see, if we take our time with the scriptures, it tells us, okay, when a man, we'll read it again, verse 2, when a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab, or a bright spot, or a white spot. Okay, so if the real JEWs, the real Israelites, if the real Israelites would look like this, then you wouldn't be able to tell if they got a white spot, because it's already white, so-called. You see? Which really they're red, okay? But you know what I mean. It's a bright spot. It's brighter. Even their red skin is brighter than that of a so-called black person. Okay? Whether it be a black man or a black woman. So-called, right? Okay, so let's get back into it. And it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priest, right? So if you got this, it's an illness. It's not a good thing. It's a lack of melanin. You have an illness that's attacking the melanin on your skin, man. And I went on Google just real quick, leprosy, right? So-called white skin. You got this website talking about leprosy, man. I click on it and he gives you this image. Now let's actually visit the website. It says leprosy with vitiligo, a clinical diagnostic challenge. And boom, there you have it, man. A perfect clear-cut example of what this looked like, Salakia, of what this looked like on a so-called black man. So you got a so-called black man or dark-skinned man, right? And when he gets leprosy, his skin looks like that of a so-called white man. You see? Showing you that the Israelites had to be black. Because if they got this illness, they wouldn't be able to tell if their skin was so-called white. You see? Now let's get back into it. We're going to read verse 3. And the priest shall look on the plague in the skin. Again, it's not a good thing to have light skin. In the plague in the skin of the flesh, and when the hair in the plague is turned white, right? That's white hair or blonde hair, right? Because like we just saw here, right? In his particular example, it's the hair is still dark. Okay, but if this gets bad enough, the hair would turn blonde and even white. You see? It says, and the plague in sight be deeper than the skin of his flesh. It is a plague of leprosy, right? So if your skin turns white, it is leprosy. And the priest shall look on him and pronounce him what? Unclean. You see? It's unclean. Okay? Now let's keep going because, why is it unclean? Because it's a blemish, man. You got the regular skin color is so-called black or dark chocolate brown. And it becomes tainted with this pale skin. That's unclean. Okay? Now let's keep going. It says, if the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and in sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days. Right, so like this guy, he would be shut up 7 days because his skin turned white a little bit in patches, but the hair stayed dark. So since the hair stayed dark, it's only 7 days to be shut up. Okay, verse 5, and the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay, and the plague spread not in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. Right, so the guy comes out, he still looks like this, nothing has gotten worse or better. All right, you're going to be shut up another 7 days. We're going to keep an eye on it, right? It says, and the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, you see, somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. Right, you see, dark. So if his skin goes what? Back to normal, dark. Okay? And this is why we bring it out all the time, man. You got pictures, just like we showed you on Google Images. Well, here you can look at the most old picture or depiction of Yahushua, and the disciples are so-called black men. Okay? There's plenty of evidence, man. This is the original way that the Israelites looked before. They still look this way, right? The tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and certain of the northern kingdom still look like this. All right, now of course you got the speckled birds which mixed, right? So you can imagine these men getting together with women of other nations, their children would change colors. They'd look different than them. But the original progenitors, right? Our original fathers were all so-called black or dark skin. Okay, all of us Israelites go back to so-called black men, you see? All right? And I'm going to read this again, man. Verse 6. And the priest shall look on him again the seventh day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, right? The skin went back to normal, and the plague spread not in the skin, right? It didn't spread because it's dark. It's getting darker again. It's getting better. The priest shall pronounce him clean. It is but a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean, right? Wash your clothes. You good. You can come back out. Now, verse 7. But if the scab spreads much abroad in the skin, and after that he hath been seen of the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen of the priest again. And if the priest see that, behold, the scab spreadeth in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and it have turned the hair white, right, or blonde, right, and there be quick raw flesh in the rising, it is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if the leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin. Okay, so now it's a different scenario, right? So let's say this leprosy this man has spreads throughout all his body, and he loses all his melanin. Okay, what happens? It says, and if a leprosy breaks out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague from his head even to his foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It is all turned white, he is clean, right? So he was considered a clean leper. So no longer is it a blemish, but he basically just lost all his melanin and became like a so-called white person, man, or an albino. You can see albinos, right? That's a clean leper. They're like, oh, okay, so you just basically lost it all, but you're good. You're a clean leper. This will still be unclean, right? But once it gets to that point, it's just like, okay, you're a clean leper. And that's what these so-called white people are. They are clean lepers. Okay? They're clean lepers. Okay? So now, let's go to verse 14. But when raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean, right? So as long as it just stays white and it doesn't start acting up and, getting all fucked up, then he's clean, all right? So yeah, man, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the point, and of course you could go into the rest of this chapter, and it continues to go into it. But y'all get the point. I have a few other precepts that kind of back up what I'm saying, even though of course it's clear cut. But we'll add to that. This is Exodus 4 and 5, and it says, now just a little context. Moses was given powers here, because the Lord was sending him to go speak to the children of Israel. Verse 5. That they may believe the Yahweh power of their fathers, the power of Abraham, the power of Isaac, and the power of Jacob hath appeared unto thee, right? So that the children of Israel will believe that the Lord spoke to Moses. What's going to happen? It says, and Yahweh said furthermore unto him, put now thy hand into thy bosom, right? So Moses put his hand into his bosom. It says, and he put his hand into his bosom, right? And when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow, right? So what happened was Moses, being a so-called black man, he stuck his hand into his bosom and he pulled it out, and the Lord gave him the power basically to turn his hand white, to show the children of Israel, like, look, the Lord is dealing with me. You guys can trust me that I'm giving you the message that the Lord sent. Okay, that way that Israel could have confidence and be like, well, look, that's a sign. His hand just turned white. Okay, but watch this, verse 7. And he said, put thy hand into thy bosom again. Right? So Moses put the white hand back into his bosom, and he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom, and behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. Right? He pulled his hand back out the second time, and his hand turned dark brown again, like that of a so-called black man or a so-called Negro. All right? Verse 8, and it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. Right? Because the Lord had given them other powers as well. All right? And so this leprosy is spoken of throughout the scriptures, man. All right? And through us knowing that leprosy is so-called white skin, or so-called fair skin, as they say, we know that by default the Israelites could not have been so-called white men. So this whole Aryan race, white supremacy bullshit, it's all false teachings, man. Okay, it's a bunch of Edomites out here thinking they're the best people, and our people thinking that, oh, we can't possibly be the people of this book. You know? Well, all these people are wrong, man. All these people are wrong. And those imposters over there in the land of Israel, acting as if they are the children of the Lord, what they're really doing is giving the Bible a bad name, or those people who are too foolish to see that those are not the real Israelites. They're going to look at those people and say, oh, they're a bunch of, those are the JWs. See, the Bible's a bad book. It's like, no, the Bible told us there would be imposters in our land, which that's a whole nother lesson. And I've made that lesson 100 times on this channel. I'm being sarcastic, not 100, but, definitely countless times. You could search this channel, and see that, we've made, and the Bible tells you our people would be scattered in slavery. Those people over there in Israel, they rule the world. They have all the power, they have their foot in every country, and, they're doing a lot of wicked things, all right, to these children out here. And y'all know what I'm talking about. They have those E.P. Stein, I'm going to say it like that, E.P. Stein. The files are out, man, and people are seeing all these people are involved, man. And all of them, a lot of them call themselves JEWs, man, because they're the ones in power at this time. They're the wicked that the Bible speaks of, man, which ultimately they go back to the tribe of Amalek. And the tribe of Amalek is the chief tribe of the nation of what? Esau. Okay, which the nation of Esau are these people that came out red, man. Again, I'm going to get it right here. This is Genesis 25 and 25. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So these people that came out red are the Edomites. They came out looking red all over, okay, because they are clean lepers. Okay, the Lord removed the pigment from their skin as a mark. Okay, and when did this happen? You got to go back to Genesis 4 and 12. Okay, it says, and Yahweh said unto him, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken upon him sevenfold. Right? Y'all remember Cain and Abel, right? Cain was that murderer who basically murdered his brother Abel because Abel gave a better sacrifice. Well, if you understand the scriptures through the Spirit, you know that Cain was Esau back then in the time of Genesis, and Abel was Jacob back then during the time of Genesis, right? And you can even go back further to the serpent, right? The serpent in the garden. But basically, keeping it short, Cain died and was reincarnated as Esau, man. And why is that significant? Let's read the rest of this pertaining to Cain. It says, and Yahweh set a mark upon Cain. What is the mark that was set upon Cain? Leprosy. Not just any leprosy like this, but a full leprosy. All the way from head to toe. That's the mark of Cain. And that tells you who the wicked is today. All right? They are the Edomites. All right? And the Lord Yahweh set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. Right? So that was set upon Cain. Cain died and was reincarnated. In the future, he was reincarnated as Esau, the progenitor of the so-called white race. Okay? And also, of course, the fake JEWs over there in Israel who are pretending to be us, they are also of the tribe of Esau or the Edom, right? Esau and Edom being the same thing. Okay, so just a little bit of quick history there, and also going into that word leprosy, man, showing you that the true Israelites were so-called black, and that's why we always bring out these ancient images, right? These are the oldest known depictions of our Lord, right? Because the newer ones were whitewashed during the time of the Renaissance period, where the so-called white man took power again, because he wasn't always in a position of power. Okay, he's only in a position of power because the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, set him up to be in power. But ultimately, they're cave dwellers. They're the basest of all men. Okay, but the Heavenly Father has this script written perfectly from the beginning to the end. Prophecy must be fulfilled. The wicked must rule the earth. Okay, these things were all written from the beginning, man. The Lord was going to come back and save us from our enemies and set us up as the rulers of the earth. Now, knowing both good and evil, but being perfect in those new bodies, man. See, this is the bigger picture. People say, well, why is there evil in the world? That's the bigger picture, man. And for more on that, you could keep watching. You could search my channel or watch any of the videos of the Brothers of Great Millstone, starting with the apostles, elders on down. We cover everything in the scriptures from the beginning to the end. Prophecy, okay, history, okay. But yeah, with that, I want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachakodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us his truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like this out there, listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom wa. Abad babal. Shalom.